just in the previous panel, we just heard about the expectation is to achieve from AI. And I would say that we always have this proverb that, customer is the king and he's always right. I would say now customer is giving us all these innovative ideas to implement basis the kind of hyper-personalized experience that they are looking forward to any kind of engagement, starting from a minor one or to a major one. And with that note, we'll start this panel because the customer experiences are getting more dynamic. Their expectation when the engagement are increasing day by day. And this data-driven artificial intelligence, or say even generative AI, that organizations are delivering that kind of personalized or say hyper-personalized and a seamless experience to the customers that you as an organization are dealing. And I would say while we have these legacy organizations who have created that kind of customer engagement, digital natives are taking it to another notch. And I would say please a big round of applause to the digital natives of India who are creating that kind of mastermind innovation and improving customer experience and engagement to that level. And we start this panel by understanding that how digital natives are leveraging this data-driven artificial intelligence transformation to their customer experience. And when we talk about customer experience, there need to be certain KPIs in place because that's really important for organization to measure, assess, and move forward, finding more opportunities to what can be taken. And with this thought, Saurabh, I'll move to you because Event Beep being one of the platforms for jobs, the kind of engagement is really high because there are certain expectations with which the job seekers are entering the platform. They need a certain aspect of ease in that interface. At the same time, they need a lot of information. There has to be certain scrutiny in place. So how are you using this data-driven AI to ensure that they have a very seamless experience of the portal?
Sure, and these are not just job seekers, these are freshers, students from college who are trying to apply for their first internship or job. They're very clueless in terms of what exactly is required. Why am I not hearing back from recruiters? There has been months, but no response from companies, whether my application is shortlisted or rejected, they have no clue. So that's what we're changing with Beep. Specifically, we're transforming in such a way, basis on we know what recruiters specifically want. We know what exactly are they looking at. And with AI, what we're able to do is, within a minute of their application, we're able to tell them that your application has been rejected. And these are the instances why your application has been rejected. So what we're also doing is we are doing AI interviews and screening, which a typical recruiter might do for 1,000 applications. AI is able to do it immediately. And we're able to tell these students that your application is rejected because of XYZ. Your communication is really poor. Now with AI, we can tell them that your tone analysis, your communication, there are a lot of filler words. You're not being very confident, especially on an interview. So that's something that we're able to tell. And not just that, we also give them a roadmap in terms of we've built a community platform wherein they have access to learning materials, they have access to events, they have access to mentors. So with that, we're also able to tell them that this is the journey that if you do it, we'll assure you an internship or a job in these particular companies. So that sort of innovation is what we're looking, especially with LinkedIn. You just apply mindlessly on thousands of jobs. Here, we are able to give them specifically, your application has 90% chances of being selected because you have everything on your profile. And basis on your AI interview, we can assure you that you'll get this application shortlisted.
Okay, great. And this is great because somehow what usually we have observed that there's always a dead end. That the next step, what's the call to action or how to move forward, that is something where which goes on lingering. Right. So it's really important to ensure that engagement is there and they know how to move forward or improvise themselves. Kanak, with this thought, I'll come to you. While we just discussed, these were like direct to the peers, but as you are tackling organizations, more of B2B, how is it different at your end and what are you doing at your space?
So I'll talk more about the use case that we are trying to do, So when it comes to the organizations working with the B2B enterprises, large enterprises, well, we are a cybersecurity startup, and when it comes to the cybersecurity and user experience doesn't go hand in hand. That's very well said, because there are two things. One is that a developer will always try and put in your application in a perspective that it should be secure. On the other hand, when it comes to the customer experience, the security that we have tried to implement will not allow you to give a better user experience. Now, this, making that balance in the product is very important. How do we do that is very important. So we being a cybersecurity company, so we built a kind of a secure communication platform for B2B enterprises, more of a secure critical enterprises. So when it comes to how people are using our platform, why are they using our platform? So to add the value in their journey while they use this platform for their secure communications. So what we do is particularly we use their data. We use to try and get their inputs in terms of how they are using our platform in order to add the value in the future perspective. The platform that we have built is more in terms of a cyber forensics perspective. People use our platform because it also provides a greater insights and cyber forensic capabilities in terms of what people are trying to communicate, where are they trying to communicate, and how, to whom they are trying to communicate. With this, we are also trying to build a traceability of all the data which is sent over the platform. It gives them a complete ability that in future, if there's any kind of a cyber incident happening in the enterprises, how do they tackle and how do they build a kind of a complete traceability on that platform. The data that is being generated in our platform is not just a kind of a data which is generated. It is more of value addition. We use that to build the models so that we add more value in the future perspective. For example, a customer doesn't know that tomorrow a certain file which is shared in the enterprise today might create a problem in 1 year down the line. That why did he share that file? Now, how did he share? To whom did he share? And what were the kind of devices that were being used? So all these dashboard-based metrics are being calculated on our particular platform. That's how we use it, and we try to increase the customer experience, or we're trying to enhance the customer experience using the data, not at the moment, but in terms of the future value addition.
And this is a customized dashboard that your clients are getting.
Exactly.
Okay. I think that further adds, because every organization may have a different perspective or KPIs when they're assessing all these aspects.
So we also do, that's very good, important point that, when we talk about a B2B enterprises, we are not just working with a one domain-based, enterprises. We work with a lot of, horizontal-based enterprises. So in terms of it, if it is a legal, if it is a banking, if it is a BPO, whatever it is based on that particular domain in which that enterprise is working on. And we use those data to give them a personalized, or I would say customized suggestions on how they should use our platform for their benefit. So it's that level of customer experience.
Okay, great. And while we have got all these run, I would like to move to Amit, towards you. So Amit from Innoplex. I know we have two Amits. So Amit, when I talk about your industry specific, because here data is really critical. It needs to be stay secured for the sake of the patients as it's into the healthcare. How do you look upon, what are your aspects and KPIs? How are you improving that customer engagement?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me here, Prateek, and giving me the opportunity to be here with the esteemed panelists. We are from the pharma industry. So my company, Plexus, it works with the pharma companies and CROs to help them accelerate the drug discovery and the development process. So while we have the tech which caters to several requirements of the industry in general, which is to basically automate the tax computation process for one of the big fours, or it helps a pharma company to automate their filing for the drug approval process to the FDA and EMA. I think the use case or the data-driven problem that is closest to my heart is where we try to actually solve the problem for the patient. When it comes to the question of life and death, the equation completely changes of how we deal with the situation. I'll give you a very simple example. According to the stats, last year, all the big pharma companies ended up spending $206 billion in research and development for the new drug development, $206 billion. How many drug approvals that they received from FDA last year was 55. It means we are spending on an average over $4 billion just for finding one new drug. And this is despite the fact that we have 600 plus types of cancers, etc. And there are 16,000 trials happening globally just in oncology space. What that means is that, it is becoming unviable for the pharma companies to actually do the research on indications which have very low incidence rate. So let's say pancreatic cancer, right? It's a death warrant today. In our parlance of pharma, it's a death warrant because its incidence rate is just 0.005%. So there is no business case for the pharma company to work on a pancreatic cancer. So does it mean that if the near and dear ones having the pancreatic cancer, we leave them with the situation that they are in? We should find a solution to this, and that's why basically we actually started working on accelerating the drug discovery and development process using the data. So we started relying on the public data, and then to improve the quality and the decision-making process or the accuracy at which we were predicting the results for pharma companies, we started to leverage the real-world evidences also from the patients. So now when you actually start working on these use cases, what becomes very important is what you raised, Pratik, very rightly, that how do you measure that the predictions that you're making or the decision support that you are providing to the pharma company that, this is the molecule that you should work on, or this is the drug which is being used for this particular disease, you can repurpose it to this disease. How do you be very confident that this is the right thing to do? Or how do you increase the confidence? We basically put this on something called as Therapeutic Data Commons, TDC dashboard. That's a de facto standard globally for any research organization, pharma company, CRO, or anybody who wants to assess how good their model is. This is a de facto global standard. We put our models on there, and I'm very proud to say that 5 of our models are actually into the top 3 categories of ADMET, which is, ADMET is nothing but assessing how the drug flows through your entire, body, right from you take it until excretion. So basically it just evaluates these parameters and tell you how strong your model is. And, externally speaking, we basically put these models on ADMET. That is how we identify whether we are meeting the KPIs or all the global benchmarks. And internally then we have our own quality checks and parameters to make sure that there is explainability of all the models that we are developing. And that's how we basically deal with the data to ensure the models that are predicting these results are of high quality.
Great. And moving ahead and getting some different perspective, Prasanna, I'll move to you. Based on, we understand that you have a platform of yours where you have enterprise users and their activities are being logged. So if you can just talk about that aspect and help us understand that what are you assessing in terms of KPI and how are you leveraging AI to improve the customer engagement?
Yeah, our platform, what it does essentially is it sits inside other applications that organizations are using. So in a way, we are trying to improve the experience of the applications of already in place. So if you imagine something like Salesforce, something like any other big apps or any comprehensive apps that have been developed by other organizations, our job is to sort of improve the experience of that. So 3-4 things that we do from AI standpoint and from data standpoint is, one is voice is a big stuff for us. So guiding users while they are doing something along with voice is one of the marquee stuff that we do. Other one is the multilingual aspect of it. So we have users in more than 50 countries now. So having users from various geographies of Europe, various geographies of Asia, even different states of India. So multilingual aspect comes to the forefront, and it helps them to sort of use guide in order to provide the last mile training and assistance and improve the experience of that. And the third thing is we are also monitoring the interactions that users are doing on these applications. And one of the latest things that we have launched is whenever someone, so we can understand those patterns, and whenever someone is about to make an error, we sort of prompt them saying that, oh, you are going down the wrong path in the application and you should not be doing that. So these are typically the use cases that we are doing. And I mean, the usual stacks have been voice and multilingual, but the third one is really picking up for us to improve the experience and to reduce the data errors and so on and so forth.
Okay, that's great. As in, imagine a prompter coming to you before you are making an error in a code or even moving to the next step. That's amazing. Saurabh, you have heard the ideas and the kind of implementation that they are having using their own products to improve customer experience. From Google's standpoint, how do you look the entire landscape and environment, and how would you assess it?
Right. So first of all, thanks, Prateek, for having me here. If it's okay, I would maybe start off with something you said in your keynote. You said that you don't like the fact that we used to call data the new oil. And if it's okay, I'll maybe build on that analogy to say that this oil is now finally the fuel for engine, which is called AI, right? So just like if you buy a sports car and you put adulterated fuel in that sports car, the engine is going to fail, right? But if you put high octane, high performance fuel, the engine is going to deliver that performance, and that is very, very true for AI as well. So how do you build that high octane fuel, right? So, one is obviously you look at all the structured databases that you have, the application, et cetera, et cetera. But what you would have noticed, what the panelists were talking about is not just limited to structured databases today. You are actually creating a data lake where you're putting all kinds of data, right? So for example, Saurabh is putting CVs, which are essentially documents, in a storage bucket, right? You can actually add audio files there, video files there. I mean, why limit to that? You can actually go ahead and put real-time streaming data, right? Or for that matter, IoT data, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the basic foundation of creating an AI infrastructure to have the right data strategy and data platform in place, right? So once you have that, and that's what I think was the first step for all of you, right? Once you have that, then what we are seeing, to answer your question, is that there are essentially 5 or 6 different kind of use cases that are taking the most amount of bandwidth as far as enterprises are concerned. The first ones are obviously customer agents, right? Customer agents are obviously your usual sales and support bots, et cetera, but also agents like, for example, an e-commerce company might want to chat with you to understand through a bot what is it that you're looking at, and then prescribe the exact model which they feel is going to be the best fit for you, right? Instead of you having to go through their website, et cetera, right? The second area is what you mentioned in your opening keynote. The second area where a lot of investment is happening are actually employee agents, right? Something on lines of, again, what you mentioned, right? If you were to sell that as a solution to an HR organization, that will become, that, right? So employee agents could be, deployed for, maybe to have normal conversations with employees around maybe policy issues, et cetera, but there are organizations that are going a step further using generative AI to enable learning and development as far as employees are concerned, because they have realized not every employee comes from a very similar background. Some are just fresh MBA hires, some people come with experience, et cetera, and they need a bit more customization in terms of their learning journey, and that's where employee agents are being deployed today, right? The third area where we are seeing a lot of traction is actually creative agents, right? Which have already been mentioned in some panel or the other. For example, somebody mentioned, hyper-personalized marketing is going to be the thing in the next 5 years, right? So that's an example of a creative agent, right? Puma today, for example, is using image models to customize the images on its website across the globe in terms, in line with the local requirements, et cetera, straightforward deployment of a creative agent. Next, we are seeing a lot of data agents that are being built today. And I think somebody mentioned very interestingly, around R&D, Amit, I think you mentioned, right? So, I mean, imagine, right? You're sitting on tons and tons of that data, right? And the data agents are essentially doing that, right? So, for example, in your field, they are going to aid you in drug research and discovery of the right molecule. In a fintech company or in a financial organization, they can enable trading teams to basically make better insights from the data that they're getting, real-time streaming data that they're getting from the markets, right, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the fourth area where a lot of innovation is happening. The next is, I think you mentioned somewhere, somebody mentioned, that you aid in, I think Prasanna, it was you, in building the code, right? So code agents, right? And they're not just limited to code today, right? They are actually now being deployed for DevOps teams. They are being deployed for database management teams, et cetera, et cetera. So all kinds of those agents are available. There's interestingly an organization called Magic, which is a developer platform, but they are building 100 million token solution. And imagine what can happen once the solution is live, right? So the most complex and the largest code that you have in your organization today can actually be analyzed using AI, right? Once a solution like that is available, right? So you can actually improve that code which you thought was not possible. And finally, security agents, right? So from a cybersecurity standpoint, I think that's going to be a big area where organizations are actually deploying these agents to assess threats in real time. And what used to take hours is actually taking minutes or seconds, and that obviously has direct business benefit in terms of being able to provide a more secure environment. So I think these 5 and 6 areas is where most of the innovation as far as generative AI is happening.
Great, and I think this perfectly sums up the kind of innovation that we are actually observing day in, day out across the market landscape in terms of innovation. And while we have talked a lot about the kind of innovation that we have implemented and how we are expanding our horizon, Saurabh, I'll come back to you, because as you mentioned that, you have taken the overall customer engagement, or say the job seeker engagement, be it the freshers or the existing ones, to the next level, rather than, just giving them a platform and just stopping over there. You have moved forward, giving them feedback, keeping them updated. I'm sure there has been a proper model that has been created. How to ensure, so there were 2 parts to this question that I will ask. How to ensure that whatever insights that you are getting from the model are actionable insights? And second is, what other challenges when all these data processing is being done, AI-driven data processing, what further challenges have you observed in the past, how you rectified, and still what further challenges do you foresee as you move forward? Because I'm sure you would be working continuously to improvise it and level up all these engagement that you have. So how is the overall journey, if I say?
Sure. So to answer the first part of the question, how are we taking feedback? So there are 2 sides to it. One is the student, the second is the recruiter side. Again, the agenda is to get students placed into companies. That's overall the goal. Now, how do we get feedback is from recruiters. So what we are also doing is we are also innovating in terms of recruiters' perspective. So commonly, what do companies ask? They just put a job description. But what we are also doing with recruiters is we are going way ahead in terms of asking relevant questions. How important is communication to you in these candidates? Are you looking for someone who's like a startup material or an MNC material? So asking more questions in terms of these companies as well to get the right candidates. And what we do is we're introducing something called as flash hire, which is hire a candidate in 6 hours. Wherein what we do is you receive thousands of applications, we'll vet them, screen them, qualify them, and we'll give you 3 students or freshers who are ready to join you immediately. These are like selected and hired candidates. And we'll give you a set of 9 candidates overall. We will get first 3. If you give feedback on these 3, if you don't like them, only then we show you the next 3 candidates. With this, what we are doing is also improving our models in terms of understanding if you're rejecting a particular candidate, why are you rejecting it, so that we can show you better candidates. And this in turn can also go to help us give feedback to students if recruiters are rejecting some particular set of candidates, what are the typical commonly asked questions or reasons? And that's how we are trying to sort of inculcate feedback and data and help students as well, where should, and with all of this, in terms of the activity as it goes, we're able to give insights to students also through a feed channel that these are the trending reasons recruiters are rejecting candidates. Maybe you can start working or building on those. So yeah, that's how we're sort of inculcating. However, when the second part of the question is what are the major challenges? And that's exactly getting recruiters to give feedback on candidates. So that's one of the major challenges that we see.
I was wondering that one.
Yeah.
That are they
So
actually giving all that feedback?
correct. So that's one of the major challenges that we would see. But we're trying to make it lesser. Instead of giving feedback for thousands of candidates, you have to just give it for 3. And then we train the algorithms in such a way that it can understand and replicate it for thousands of more candidates. So that would be one of the major challenges that we foresee.
Great. And I think from here we've got to know a really key message that data is good, but it's only useful when you know what exactly do you want to capture in the data. I think that's the key. Because unless you have a clarity that what I need to capture and put into my model, I'm sure the results will not be as useful as what we expect to be. Amit, I'll again come back to you because with that thought, as you mentioned, the kind of investments that are being put in the healthcare to ensure the drug development and all this is again AI-based data analysis. How do you ensure in your industry that the data is good, filtered? What are your challenges and how do you ensure that the insights are actually actionable insights?
Sure, thanks, Prateek. Interestingly, in our industry, data, of course, just like any other industry, data is the key. But in pharma, the data, according to last year's publication, doubles itself in every 73 days. And this is happening at a compounding of doubling at 73 days. So that's a massive amount of data that we have to deal with. And Saurav being from Google, he can attest that garbage in, garbage out just works terribly for any organization. So when you have so much of data, you really have to cleanse it and find out the data which is really meaningful for you. And this data comes from so many different sources. It comes from like 20,000, 25,000 odd sources globally, publicly available. Now, how do you really find out the quality data to get that in your system, to get it structured, and then to process it for decision support? That's a big challenge. So we continued with that problem for some time. We established internally our data governance practice. We started to do confusion metric, accuracy detailing at the nth level, but nothing helped until we actually put that data on the knowledge graph. I think knowledge graph, since the time it has come, has really solved the data problem when it has to be assessed at scale. So we created an auto-scaling knowledge graph where we pushed in all the data that came in. It basically started to structure the data, started to identify the key nodes, and then started to establish relationships. Because when you're dealing with such a large data, we literally create over 1 trillion connections across multiple nodes. And once that has happened, then I have a firm belief that the human intervention and validation to some extent cannot be taken away, how much ever advanced AI would reach at certain point in time. So then we put through that into a medical validation process where the subject matter experts basically on a sampling basis check the quality of the data. And then we have a throughput screening lab in Germany where whatever the data has predicted is actually put through the lab, the physical lab, to see the results which are spit out by the AI do make sense in the end. And after that, only the decision support is provided to the pharma companies. So that's a very lengthy process, but I think unless you do it, it's very difficult to provide those insights because ultimately you're dealing with the patient's disease and a cure for the patient's disease. So it's imperative that you go through that. That's number one. The second challenge that we are seeing right now is the explainability of the AI. So if you have gotten the output, you really need to have enough trust in that output that whatever AI has created is of relevance and will actually solve the problem. So we're trying to solve the explainability problem also. So I think these two are the key challenges. But other than that, last problem that we are seeing, not to a very large extent, I think that is getting solved with the agentic AI now, is the problem of having too many. So if you have too many models or agents solving the same problem, you really can't pick the one which will solve it the best. But now when agentic AI has come in, it has started to solve a pinpointed problem in a very specificity, in a very specific manner. And that brings in the explainability and the trustworthiness into the models, which will basically start solving problem at a much higher accuracy levels.
Definitely. I think explainability is something which really bothers everyone whosoever is adopting an LLM model. Because until unless that aspect is being catered, that trust, that confidence on the insights that they are getting as output is something that they need to really move forward with great cautious.
Yeah.
And while we discuss all this, I'll move towards Sandeep you. Now, these two were very different because Amit is getting verification, verified being done, and explainability is becoming really critical for them. And on the other hand, if I talk about Saurabh, he has a certain system in place where the feedback is the key. But when we talk about your field, the supply chain, the logistics aspect, how does it work around for you?
Thank you, Prateek, for calling me here. I'm co-founder of FreightFox. What FreightFox does is, FreightFox is a logistic ERP for manufacturing or brands, right? So, or a supply chain platform for manufacturing enterprises. So here in supply chain, the most important part, and I'll give you a very practical example, right? Let's consider, at the end of the conference, we'll book a cab, either through Ola or Uber, right? Whichever you like, and it starts raining, right? So what you'll do, you'll say, okay, fine, let's wait for another 30 minutes. Or you'll say, okay, fine, Ola में नहीं मिल रहा है, Uber ढूंढ लेते हैं, Rapido ढूंढ लेते हैं, new आया है, right? That we'll do. Or what we'll do, third is, यार, change the, let's book a sedan or let's book a auto, right? So we'll do either of the three, right? So looking, and I'm just giving an example here. So you are an intelligent human being. What you exactly did is you picked few data points of the external factors. You also looked at your financial aspects. What would you like to have? Can you wait? Can you not wait? What is urgency? What is your schedule? And then you took a decision, right? Logistic is all about this, right? So it's about the connectedness of the data, right? So even in the conference name is DAICON, right? Data AI Con, right? A few years back, if you did this conference a few years back, you would have kept DAICON, but probably you will just remove the AI part of it and you'll just Data Analytics Con, right? And 5 years back, it would be Data Processing Con, right? Today it is Data AI Con, right? So why it is AI? Because you want the data to be intelligent, right? And so here where we come. So the challenges that we face and we have seen, because we are a SaaS platform for brands, what we see is the data is in silos. So the first challenge that we see is that data is in silos. The procurement team, the guy who's making an order, okay, fine, pick this vendor and this is going to be the vendor for, let's consider moving the goods from Pune to Delhi or whatever, right? In that case, the operation team says, this guy does not put vehicle whenever I ask him. So the procurement team and the operation team might be on a different silos, and their data, like their operational data, the operational efficiencies are not connected to the data which is coming from the procurement team or the invoicing team for that matter. So data is in silos, and there are two set of silos, right? One silo is between the teams, another is between the data which is internal and external to you. The external data is, okay, fine, is it raining, right? Has the inflation increased? Has the toll data increased, right? Right. So all of this is also, there is a new expressway which has come from between Pune to Nagpur, which is increasing the efficiency. So there is no account of the external data which is also there. So this is one set of challenges that we are trying to solve. Another point is the legacy integration, because we are working with brands which are large brands. So they already have some technology in there. These are legacy systems which we need to be integrating, right? The AI cannot be, okay, fine, let me tell you something which is very generic in nature. They wanted to integrate their data with the AI, right? Another big aspect which I see and which is a very common thing is, you must have seen that we create dashboards, right? And I'll ask you all to actually go back to your teams and ask them, ki, okay, fine, out of the dashboard, do you like this dashboard? They will say yes. 80% of them will say yes. You ask those 80%, okay, fine, what action could you do with this dashboard? Then the answer would be hardly 20 odd percent. That's what generally it happens, right? So interpreting the insights using those dashboards is going to be also useful, right? So if I'm getting an insight, what is the action that I can do? Is it actionable or not, right? So even if AI is coming with an insight, are you going to making it into action or not, right? So that is one. Another thing is, which you talked about, is the ethics, right? The ethics, which comes around is, the AI solution is probably is providing a recommendation to you. It has to be responsible, it has to explain it. So it has to tell, okay, fine. These days when you go to Prime or you go to Amazon, they always explain you, if I'm recommending you this product, why I am recommending you this product. If I'm from a logistic platform, if I recommend that this particular shipment would be delayed based on an AI model, why we are saying so. If I don't explain it, sometimes people will start doubting the platform, right? So there has to be some explanation so that the user understands. So these are some of the places that we feel we face challenges, and that's it.
Okay, great. So we've got a good perspective from the logistic aspect, and we have a very interesting industry. And Amit, with that thought, I'll come to you. Considering your organization, it's very different. You are creating a e-marketplace for biofuels, which is a very niche market. The expectation from the market is very high. But right now, in such a nascent stage, when it is between the providers to the business, or even with the farmers, which are much more challenging when it comes to getting them on the platform, connecting and collaborating with them, how's it going with you? Like what are your set of challenges?
Thanks for having me here. I head the customer success team at Biofuel Circle. And as you aptly described, Biofuel Circle is at the core of Heart of Hearts. Is a platform company, but it is solving the supply chain problem for the end industry, which is connected with farm to fuel, right? So, statistically speaking, there are about 80 or 90 commodities or farm produce. The waste material from which converted into fuel, which can be used to power our industries, right? And it can be, solid fuel, liquid fuel, or gases as fuel. Now, in this whole experience of conversion of the agricultural produce, which is taken from the farms, to the end industry, which can be a large industry which has a boiler, there are various stakeholders involved in this whole production, and we need to cater to all of them, right? So the challenges which it throws up are very different. So at one end, you can consider us a B2B company where, it's a simple, a biofuel producer and a consumer. So that is one part of our business, but there is another part which is, farm to business, right? So we are collecting the agricultural produce from the farmers. So what is it that we can do to make the life of the farmer easier? And the whole focus is on changing the customer experience into customer delight, right? So we have developed simple WhatsApp-based chat bot engines, which enable the farmer to just say his preference of the date when he wants his farm cleared, the kind of produce which he has, and we aggregate all that demand. We optimize the collection of that waste from his farm, and then we send it through to warehouses. So typically what happens is, in this industry, it is also there are some factors which are beyond our control. Now, when I say beyond our control, in case there is a sudden weather change, the harvest time of a crop that gets changed, it throws us, it throws the entire process out of whack, right? So the whole perspective on this is we try and break down the problem into simpler solutions and use data based on problems which we know are predictable and which can which can have a solution which will result into the end customer getting delighted, right? So from that perspective, we also have certain predictions based on prices, because we know what agricultural commodities are available, what are the benchmark prices which we can expect out of them. So it is an industry which has been largely unorganized in the past, and we are introducing a kind of structure to it. And for that, we are making use of database decision making. So that is the stage at which we are, where it is about operational optimization and learning, and how do you feed back that data into further optimizing your operations.
Great. And Saurabh, I'll come back to you. Now, we have heard a lot of challenges. Started from data accuracy, ensuring it's AI usable data, the silos, and other the explainability being one of them. How do you look up on these challenges, and how these challenges can be catered?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So one thing which is true about the AI revolution that started a few years back and really became the buzzword maybe last year or year before that, is that the development is happening at a breakneck pace, right? So every day we hear of a new development and it's hard to keep pace. One example that I can think of is, Google recently announced that we are going to be watermarking any images that are going to be generated by our imaging solution. And the reason for that was to basically build trust, right? To build trust, to ensure that they cannot be misused, et cetera, et cetera. There are tools that are now available that can actually identify deep fakes, right? So yes, we will have to build solutions as the technology progresses. This was just one example of the kind of solution that we built. But if you look at these challenges, I feel they're going to be two, 3 or 4 things that we'll have to keep in mind while building an AI solution. And I know that a lot of you are already doing that. I think the first thing is, privacy needs to be at the heart of any AI solution that is built. And I think, Amit, you can vouch for it, right? For example, in Amit's business, it's going to be extremely critical that they use data de-identification tools to ensure that sensitive patient information is not shared with the AI model. But at the same time, you need to ensure that the relevant information that the AI model needs to get trained is available, right? So then usage of those tools, and not only would it help you to build maybe trust with the healthcare provider and the patient, but it'll also help you to meet HIPAA compliance, right? So that is one example of how you would want to maybe think of the first basic thing, which is privacy. The second thing I think, which is a challenge, and a lot of you have mentioned, maybe I'd like to mention it as well, is explainable AI, right? And when you talk of explainable AI, there are various ways in which this is being addressed, right? One is a pretty straightforward way. Sandeep mentioned that there are links that are provided when you are chatting with a chatbot, right? So that you can actually, and if you actually use Gemini or Gemini Advanced, you would see that when a response is provided, it has links that point to the source which was used to build that response, right? So that's an element of explainable AI, right? The other thing is that if you're building your own model, for example, right? So let's say a financial institution that is building an AI model to generate credit score, right? Now, this is a sensitive model that you're building because, you would be, selecting candidates for loans basis this model, right? There are tools that are now available that can help you, realize the factors that have gone into generating that credit score with the use of the AI model, right? So Vertex AI, for example, supports that today, right? You can use Vertex AI if you built that model on Vertex AI to identify the factors that were used. And so if the regulator comes calling, asking you why have you been rejecting, this loan, that loan, how do you explain it to them, right? So this is going to be a good fallback for you, right?
Okay.
So that's explainable. Yeah. And then finally, I think, while there are a lot of challenges, I think it's an interesting area. The idea would be to just keep pace with the development. And the last thing I would want to maybe say here is, do also look at, challenges with AI in the same way that you look at challenges with the regular infrastructure. It's not going to be very different when it comes to, maybe somebody mentions data safety and security, right? And that's where I think, you should look at it from the point of view of maybe making sure your data is encrypted, making sure that, the right IAM is in place, who's accessing the data, et cetera, making sure that you have the right threat intelligence platform or threat monitoring platform.
You're answering
et cetera,
already
et
the
cetera.
next question, which I'm about to ask them.
Sorry about that. So I will hold my horses. Sorry about that.
So while Saurav has listed quite a lot of aspects to ensure, because my next question was all about that everyone is working around data, and definitely data security is a concern. So while that also is a challenge, so what are your steps? And you have already shared the best practices, but apart from that, if you would like to highlight, so I'll start with you, Prasanna. So while he has listed some of them, is there anything apart from that as a best practice or something that you have implemented to ensure? Because you are improving the performance of the tools which are already there. People are working on that and they're prompters. So what are your steps to ensure that data security is being maintained?
Yeah, I mean, the first and fundamental thing that we do is we build guardrails, basically. So you cannot expect guide to answer who is president of USA, something for that matter. So those guardrails are very important because we work with a lot of BFSI organizations as well. So they also make sure, they also want us to make sure that we are not passing the data which is not required for the use case that we solve for them. So the guardrails, that's one thing that we do. And the other things are usual. I believe he will be able to answer it more. But the usual cloud best practices, such as enabling the encryptions and keeping the data in separate tenants and doing the VAPTs. So potentially what we are not there yet, but we are working towards a model where we will be able to automate the VAPT in a way, because every customer that we work for, they ask for the latest VAPT reports, right? Because they all want to make sure that you are compliant. So how we can automate the VAPT is where we are working. That way it reduces the time sort of sales cycle for us. So that's few things that we are doing. And one of the important things is that when you use cloud providers like Google or AWS or any other, they have a lot of these features that sort of make you compliant with CIS benchmarks and other internet security benchmarks. So we are just enabling those, all of them, going all in and making sure that we are compliant on at least 99% of the times on those.
Great. And I'll come to you in terms of, as you're taking care of the logistics, Sandeep. So how, and as you also mentioned that, it's just not about the internal, so it's also about the external data that is coming. How do you secure that external data and how it's talking to the internal data? How do you create those barriers to ensure that the data is secure?
So what we do there is something which is called RAG. What you do is lot of times what you wanted to do is you don't want it to expose your data, but you wanted to run AI on top of it. right? And you wanted your teams to have better use of the AI platforms, right? But on your data, not on the, and you don't want it to expose your data. So there is a term called RAG, which is, I forgot the full form, retrieval augment generative AI platforms or AI agents. You can think, what you can do is you can actually take your data, you can put into a vector database, and you can actually help the generative AI to form your query, but it would not access your data, right? So it will actually go to the chat GPTs or the LLM models which are there, right? And it will form the query and it will query your own data. And also you have to do is tokenize your data, because your data has to be broken to smaller tokens so that you can work on that. So it would ensure is it will actually ensure something where you have containerized your data and not expose it to the outer world. That is one thing that we do. There are three more parts which everybody does, and we also do that. One part is we actually segregate some PII data into separate, or we federate that data. That is one particular part which we do. Another part is the differential, adding a differential noise to the data, which what we do is we add some noise to the data so that the data can be used from our prod platforms, it can be used to our dev platforms, so that even our development teams don't have the access to the actual data, because there is some financial metrics to this data as well, right? How much a particular transporter is quoting, right? And everything else, how much anybody is getting paid. Third and important part is the data has to be encrypted, right? So even if you want a LLM model or a AI model to work on top of it, you can actually encrypt your data and you can ask an AI model to work on top of it, right? This is the third way to actually make sure of a data security from an AI standpoint.
Okay, great. Kanak, if you would like to add something specific or unique that is being done from your end, as you also providing one of the platforms.
Sure. I mean, when we talk about this privacy or particularly security, so we need to understand one thing very important is that when it comes to privacy and security, privacy keeps on changing as you change your geographies of your business location. For example, now India came up with its own DPDP Act. America or US has its own privacy law. It is not just that it is done very recently, but US had it very early during their inactions. Now, why did that happen? So I also need to be politically correct here that it is also a socio-political considerations why a particular geographic region has its own privacy implications or laws. DPDP Act was deliberated and debated a topic in Parliament of India since long. It got passed very recently. What we are doing to do this DPDP Act is basically DPDP Act talks about the consent management largely. In any kind of a platform that enterprises has, it talks about the consent management. When we talk about the platform that we are trying to build today, the sensitive communication platform, we do not portray ourselves as a messaging platform or a communication platform. We talk about consent-based messaging platform. Now, this is something that we completely change the kind of a message that we are trying to deliver to our partners and the customers, that the platform that we are trying to build is completely regulated with the DPDP Act. When we talk about this DPDP Act, more of the BFSI organizations who are here right now would relate this very much that DPDP is also more about the consent management in the digital platforms. We are already doing that. So the startups who are actually innovating in terms of cyber security or in the privacy sectors, they need to regulate more in terms of the compliances and the laws in which they are actually regulating and in which they are actually working into. We are doing that with the DPDP Act.
Okay, great. It's almost like having security at the design phase just to ensure that all the check boxes are ticked. And with that thought, as we are about to conclude, Ravi, I'll come to you, that you've heard the challenges. Every organization has a unique challenge because the overall setup, the way data is collected, the overarching business objective. How you or say Brew as a technology can cater to these unique challenges and help them strategize because they have those cloud-enabled, AI-driven data platforms. So how can they move forward ensuring that all the challenges have been catered?
Yeah, I think we have already talked a lot about all of this things. And I see that we are already out of time and people are becoming jittery. So I'll keep it really, really short. The thing that I think is most important in GenAI is actually data, as we already have talked about, right? Saurabh was also talking about it. Other people have also talked about it. But for me, so once you have this data, how do you go to the GenAI is basically the big data engineering, right? And big data engineering is not easy for everybody. So you have this disparate set of data that is coming from all over the world, and somehow you have to figure out to find a solution or find analytics out of it. Right? So that is something that Brio is very good at. So we already know, we have already worked with multiple customers. We already know the pitfalls. Google already has a set of standards for this. And we basically follow that. Right? So that is something that we can really work on. And the second thing that everybody has talked about is security. But along with security, I think the second thing that comes along with security is reliability. So there is something called as reliable AI. And Google actually has a standard defined for reliable AI. So they have a standard, like 13, 14 step standard that is already defined there. But it can be a little bit confusing. So for a layman, when they go there, so the first thing that it will say is build a cross-functional team, right? And second thing they will say is build a data-centric organization. So those things can be a little bit confusing, but those things are basically what we do. We tell people what it takes for the organization to reach there. So that is something that we can help with. The third thing that I think is the difficulty that in AI is having integration with legacy systems, right? So you suddenly have built this AI, and it is going to spit out certain information, and that information you are able to understand what is going on with this, but you have already built so many legacy systems that do not understand, or they do not understand what this guy is talking about, or even this system that you have built is not able to take data from there. So that is again something, integration is something that we can do. So those are the things that basically we take care of.
Great. I would say with that, we'll conclude the panel, and really thanks to all the panelists, because you have shared different challenges, different modus of operandi and your operations. And I'm sure all the organizations would have slightly more different or more or less similar ones. And I hope so the sharing of experience has helped you how to move forward, the kind of challenges that they are facing, and strategize your next one. Thank you so much.